Hi, Jeff Burke here from Broadband Forum. I'm here with Yves Hertoghs. He is the Product Stream Leader for our CloudCO initiative. Hello, Yves.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm great. I wanted to talk about an exciting area that we have going on here, CloudCO. Maybe you can give us a little bit of an explanation as to what CloudCO is and where it's going.
Right, yeah, so CloudCO actually stands for the Cloud Central Office. So it's really the combination of the idea of pushing out virtualized functionality, so that's the NFV side of things, network functional virtualization, more distributed in the network, i.e. in the central office. So it's really the amalgamation of software-defined networking, trying to get traffic into those functionality, NFV, network functional virtualization, and on top of that, a cloud consumption model such that you can actually create services and people can consume those services in a cloud agile kind of way.
I know it's an exciting area. What are some of the hot topics here in Glasgow, and then you'll see emerging over the next couple of quarters here?
Yeah, so effectively, initially the work was very much focused on creating a framework of the architecture itself. And we came up with a framework that was based upon kind of black boxes of functionality. We don't define what's inside of the box, but actually we do define how those boxes interoperate. And those boxes of functionality, of course, have to do with things like access and where the network functions reside and how to orchestrate them and all those things. So that's done. That's the TR-384 work. And from that, we started using application nodes. As a matter of fact, we already published 7 application nodes today, and effectively they are kind of an agile way of pushing out the use case into the larger community for a architecture based upon Cloud Central Office. And the idea is to you kind of define a use case typically like with actors and how things kind of, what information kind of moves between those functional black boxes as a result of those actors interacting with the CloudCO system. And we've been quite successful in doing that, but obviously the icing on the cake is going to be that we will be implementing those application nodes onto a real infrastructure. And as a matter of fact, we've created the Open Broadband Labs to do such that. And probably you're going to ask me, what's the Open Broadband Labs? And the Open Broadband Labs is, you can see it as a sandbox for innovation and incubation. It's a sandbox in the sense that all of us lovely engineers can go in there and start playing around with the functionality as described by the framework, can start putting things together, multiple vendors, multiple service providers, maybe even VNF vendors as well, all play together in the sandbox, incubate and innovate together on this. And as a matter of fact, we're actually very close to officially launching the second iteration of the Open Broadband Lab in Berlin, in Berlin, as a matter of fact, at the ENTC premises. And I'm quite proud to kind of announce the fact that my company, vmWare, has been quite, let's say, substantial in providing resources to kind of make that happen.
That's, well, very appreciative on behalf of the whole industry of that. And I think it will mark some really, the beginnings of real amazing work and activity. Building on that, what do you see as the real implications for service providers coming out of these labs and some of the work that you're doing right now in your work area?
Yeah, so obviously, I think what we're going to be seeing out of the work happening in the Open Broadband Labs is hopefully a work of innovation between multiple parties and incubation of new things as well, new services, or maybe even new ways of deploying a service and of consuming a service. I can see, for example, the entire idea of wholesale totally being changed by this model. It used to be so that if you're a service provider and have to provision some service characteristics for another retail service provider, it's quite cumbersome to set up all the components and all those things. Whereas now we can turn it into a cloud model. You can consume the entire CloudCO as a service by a third-party operator. So that's going to be quite nice, and also gels quite nicely with the philosophy behind 5G and network slicing, for example, because that concept is all about slicing up the infrastructure into multiple kind of subdomains. And effectively, I'm very hopeful that something like CloudCO can totally enable a future towards 5G network slicing.
It's exciting stuff. Now, as we move into 2019, you talked about really the launching of some of these new lab environments. What else is in store for the rest of the year for CloudCO?
So currently we're very active in finishing some of the work in the interfaces realm, i.e. by defining exactly, so I mentioned those black boxes of functionality before, defining exactly what are the interfaces between those black boxes, so the protocols, the data models that flow over them. So that's actually happening as we speak at the CloudCO meeting, and obviously we're going to be going forward with that in the future as well. We're also doing testing as a result of this, because we also want to make sure that, for example, if somebody comes up with a new application node, that there is a kind of a way of testing out that functionality in an agile and qualitative way. And I'm very hopeful also we can soon kind of, let's say, launch the third iteration of Open Broadband Labs in the US. And as a matter of fact, maybe it's too early to kind of, let's say, talk a lot about it, but I have had very hopeful and fruitful hallway discussions about that fact, as a matter of fact, here in Glasgow. So.
Well, good. Well, I think that this all shows a lot of promise, not only for existing broadband members, but really lots of folks around the world to become involved. What's anything you have to say about that in terms of the types of companies or things that you're looking to get involved with this project area, as well as the type of skill sets you might be looking for?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's important to kind of also draw in, let's say, other parties, because obviously the entire idea behind broadband as a service enabled through cloud is quite new to the industry. And obviously we're also looking for guidance by, for example, the vendors that make those virtual network functions, by service providers who have done such work already in the past, or any other party who is interested in helping us innovate and incubate this industry. As a matter of fact, we've publicized some of those application nodes already to the public domain. But if you really want to kind of start working on future application nodes, and i.e. also as a result of this, the testing, the interface work, the open broadband work, we strongly encourage people to kind of join the Broadband Forum and work with us in making the future of broadband a success.
Well, great. Well, there you have it, an open invitation to get involved. Thank you, Yves, for walking us through this today. And this is Jeff Burke signing off from Glasgow.